오이버리 상가 그것보다 다시 되래. 다자가라 저거 주로는 뭐지? 쇼게 되래. 내리 쇼게.
Rinpoche says good morning to all the Dharma friends joining on the live stream. Anyways, it's morning here.
내리 쇼게 거다 돼. 답지 주막다 그래. 그래서 담바하나. 좀 재미있대. 동담근이 뒤어 말이지.
However, mornings and evenings are just illusions because actually there is no time. In the Tsambala practice, it says that like timelessness, the 3 times are timeless, and that's the actual time, the ultimate time.
We'll begin with opening prayers from the Yellow Prayer Book on page 1.
Da la da war je be da no par je be ge dar ba dan dan jen jen be bar de joy bar je ba dan je je zo je be mai nang ga da nyan be sen je dan je de wa da de dong ar dan ra nyur de la na me ba yan da bar zo be chan chui ren bo je
All mother sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, May they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. All mother sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly may they attain precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment.
My bar de lung I yes de reine zon de nye ma san da zan je bar de lung I yes
For that purpose, until I attain Buddhahood, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Until death, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. From today until this time tomorrow, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Now we'll go to the mandala offering on page 7. Bon kan jen jen rai yun de mai je dai de zong wei wei boi chur ze gun ber jie dan ze jie war jen jie lo ngö dai ngö men ta le yon roi jen jen gai ne zong ro wan dai che je men ze len de ne loi men ran cho per ve san je doi bar jin je lo. An infinite array of worlds, each with 4 continents and the wealth of infinite oceans of realms, if I bring them all to mind and offer them without exception, please hold with compassion all the beings they contain. My body, enjoyments, and whatever I own, my aggregates, elements, and sense sources, my aspirations now and in times to come, as well as everything I grasp as mine. By offering them all, may I be blessed with the end of self-grasping. Completely liberated from the bounds of real and unreal, transcending the names and concepts of arising, cessation, and abiding, coming and going, affirmation and denial, the supreme mandala is the natural state. By offering it, may I be blessed to attain the state of Buddhahood. Page 10, requesting teachings.
Sen je nan je san bai dan lo ye je dai je dar var je join tu mon te bai ye je je go lo go de so.
Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the greater and lesser vehicles and the teachings common to both according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
Serkhangma the shit. I think I don't want to show the Serkhangma Jung Yin Javation Council, that was some time with that is took your that is showing taking the same data. Give this mambo yori, the Jambo General Songre and do Kasakan Jai, this of the Jiba Pay and do. They are hurting your one winner. They mark a young Tongo Mari, she and she marry, call down Mary. They did the Sochi, no do nothing. They put in the Jumbo, Sensation Nangare. They market and longer can't that is only say, show you this thing. Other than Tommy Parson, Tommy sing your. 탐지가들이 무조건 남산 리낭 이렇게 봐는 게 맥시가 가린낭 거래 되게 바빠다가 로런지 지도다도 하고 그래 딱 강게 그 같이 지서들이 라마 강게까지 로런지 제나 리피트 셈을 하게 그래서 다 추적을 동지 봐라 들리다 무슨 남아사게 추적 로런지 요래 로렌테티 마시아 소바는 저러고요래 실에 취졌어도래지 대다가들이 똑같이가 동마치가 땅마서 그랬지 로렌 기침을요래 이마 마시아서 농사망 뭐요 저리 택하셔요래 이제 만들어서 저 파스토 이제 종종 나와서 그래서 거기로 사상진이 로렌이나 그랬단 말이에요 사지 쪽에 가랑들이 따고 딱게 땅거 송노래 다 주로 가시게 그래서 딱게 땅을 쳐더라고요 그래 딱게 땅을 쳐봐더라 중문에 요래 맞아서 집에 요지 좀 그때 딱게 땅이 요지 칠칠 저래 맞아 그 돈은 통고 말에 그 남아 사집에 사지를 깔아들이 쓱게 달에 세진데 그quarta 정말 가서 사지 그 가들 딱히 양도 통송을 딱히 돌고 그래 대대다고 보면 대신 말이죠 대랑 강시시 가정만 요소를 했지
So today I'm going to continue the teachings on the Serkhangma. And so until now I gave you some explanations on that, but I really spoke just very directly, maybe I said all kinds of things. Anyways, we continue today, and we are on that verse, which I don't know if you have the same text, but here it's on page 6, and it starts with, furthermore, I behold in my mind and offer to the Protector all offerings throughout the limitless pure lands of the victorious ones, and so on. So that is where we're going to continue today. And so generally speaking, regarding the Serkhangma prayer, there are many different commentaries on it. There is elaborate ones, medium-length ones, and concise commentaries. Also, His Holiness Garchen Rinpoche gave a commentary. So you can find commentaries all over the place, and some of them are extremely elaborate, and they are really excellent. But I myself, for one, I don't really see well. And then also I don't really know how to explain these well. So if you want to have a more elaborate understanding. Then also Khenpo Tenzin Rinpoche is going to explain more on that. I'm just explaining to the best of my abilities. And so the people who are listening to my explanations of all sorts, those some of more higher education, some of lesser education, and so on. And probably it's possible that there are a few things that I'm saying that maybe are not okay or maybe a little wrong. And so there are many scholars who are listening, and so therefore you need to pay attention to that and also point that out. And then after that, after the teachings, also discuss the topic with each other. Because it's important that you really understand the meaning, and this is how you deepen the understanding. So that after you receive a teaching from a Lama, if you have a discussion group with each other and discuss the topic, then it will really sink into your mind. And so this is how we actually study the Dharma as Buddhist practitioners. So as in Buddhism, we have these discussions. If one doesn't know how to discuss properly, then it becomes just like a kind of an argument or a debate argument. But if you know how to discuss well, then it becomes really a refinement of each other's understanding of the Dharma. It is just like friends are kind of washing each other's face. And so there's probably many things that I don't know. I'm just speaking very directly. And so for that, I ask for your patience and forgiveness. And anyways, there might also be a few things that are quite interesting, and it would be good to pay attention to that. And it would be good to really think about it, if it's true or not. So it's actually really important that you analyze the teachings. And that's a special quality of the Buddha's teachings, actually, because in some religions, maybe they say that you should not ask any questions, you shouldn't analyze. But if one is told that one can't analyze something, then there is something hidden, a hidden flaw there. Actually, if something only has a good quality, then it should be analyzed. Because, like with the Buddha's teachings, because there are only qualities, the more you analyze it, the more qualities will reveal themselves. It's not that faults will reveal themselves, the more you analyze it. And that's because it is teachings that possess great qualities. And the Buddha himself had actually said that you cannot just take my word, you have to analyze and take apart my teachings, just like if you would polish gold. You have to look and, with an analytical mind, you have to look at my teachings well. And so it means that we have to analyze it again and again. We have to again and again think about it, and in this way really come to an understanding. So in any case, now I'm going to continue this commentary, and I'm going to do my best. I'm going to explain it to the best of my abilities.
Ramjang shi ba de ta so chu de de gong yong de gang le de ta dong sum dong ji za ba le de che bo yin sam de da so da za ba le de che wa yin gang la me sam de yo le yana che le ba tam che de ne ya che da ba ko la la so wa ka she tong o za ba le de che bo ma le de tang le ngu bo tong su che le ge yo de che ba tam che ta ka ma ta da la so che ma bo tong gu yo le 대략적으로 로시아티에 탑지고 까마가 장탕 냠바들 까마들이다 여기 감 레디 지는데 시합을 되게 시작시 사제사와 되게 시합을 때는 시합 개담 채는 되게 농지 제요래 시합도 상지에 시합을 뭐래 이 자치도 같이 또다 대 가나랑은 거가리 맞아서 저게 이 시합 뭐도 되는 저기 가서 좀 말이지 다됐다 고투고요래 제일 소장지 탑재 람스하고 그래요. 대답을 남자는 통투바 대답에는 강에 통 못hab아서 똥섬똥이니 대통령 똥집안 잡을 잡아 사강 또라 찍라 똥땅 뭐지 휴진 적대성 대 찍대 집아들 똥이바 밤에 적대성 대 대 찍도 집어 밤에 찍도 찍도 집어로 동some 동을 찍도 있어. 다 쳔보래. 대양 쳔보 말이. 그 산재 나반 삼재 사가 송지잖아. 요 배차요래. 산재 나반 삼재 대 가려야 되나. 들이서 산지 고독들이 산지들이 죽어야 돼. 죽어도 산지지 고독들 남카들이 배래. 죽어 남카다 되는. 이 뒤에들이 대래들이 장가와 대들이 산지 거에 바쁘 보가래들이 생제대로 3년만 잡아 요래. 대답지 싫어요. 어떻게 가려야 되나. 나중은 진짜 다 달라마한테 계획이 같이 공부 가셔야 되는 답을 녹상 어떻게 해야 되는 대말 다 장매발해야지. 다가 산지기 시면 장매발해서는 로자체 보지로 그래. 로자체 보지로는 되니 람잠되는 yarkawa ta me ba ni ta me o ta ti chen nam kwe ka cha de cha ji chap du de ju ka nam pa ta o ko na cha ba de ni ti ni long ko ja chung sa de de ti de ta ti ni na ji sa chuk chen gu na ho le de ta ko ta ji ma ta de cha ngo de ta de ta xin kang ko ta ka ji na de ram jam chi ba de dong 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 ji de ta de ta me ba sa ji 남한테 남한 가지고 거의 바보 보가를 차요래 해서 그 사제지 봐 찍게 되나 다 대도 람잠 자르신 한테 사제 거의 잘 차요 그래 망보래들은 동들랑 게 따와된 거 죽은 남 갔다 와야 되는 들었다 따왔대나 봐봐 사적들아 산데 마세이 뒤때는 그 뒤는 마디 봐 찍자요 말에 동거 적당 때면 탈에 돼 봐서 대하고는 저 람잠데 또 담만에 봐요 그래 람잠시 봐지 설명서는 그리고 이제 나가다면 sep지 담제제 그때 무슨 생각들 따따고 생각한 거 다시 그 장매 발에서 대대로 대바지를 저 자체 뭐 생고만 대바자지 비체도 저 고알로 야고요 그래
So in that verse it says, limitless, the limitless pure lands, or as I want to say, this is infinite field, an infinite field of pure lands. And this means that, this infinity means that there is no center and no boundary. It refers to something that is vast and endless. And so now we can understand it, at least to some extent, is we speak about our universe. We often say it's the like a billion-fold universe, or more precisely, it's the third order, 1,000-fold universe. And so now we think, when we look at our world, that it's really big, and there's nothing bigger than our world. And nowadays, actually, science even says that it's not true. It's not just this world. There's many other worlds, many other universes and worlds. It's not just us here. It's just what we can see now. But beyond that, there is so many more stars and planets and so on that we cannot see. But nowadays, science, with great wisdom, they are able to, and intelligence, they are able to see many of these other worlds and universes. And so this wisdom, this intelligence, is actually the Buddha. So it's the scientific intelligence that tries to fathom the extent of the universe by looking at the stars and the planets and the numbers and so on. And that intelligence is also Buddha, because it is said everything that is done in the field of knowable things is done by Buddha. So now if we understand that, so then we have understood the essence of the Buddha. And now the greater one's wisdom then becomes the more of these qualities of knowing then arise within one's mind. And so when we understand that, when we understand, for example, also the Buddhist concept of this infinity of universes, then we understand that it's not just this world, but there is infinite worlds like this, just like science has understood, for example. And so anyways, what we call this third order thousandfold universe is that, so we take our universe, and this universe, and this universe is the first, is like counted as one, and then that's the first order thousandfold universe. So 1,000 of this is a first order thousandfold universe, and then the second one is the medium, a thousandfold or second thousandfold universe, and that is when you take the first one, which is 1,000, count it as one, and multiply it again by 1,000. So then you have as the second third order thousandfold universe, and then you take that, so it's 1,000 times 1,000, and you take that as one, and again multiply it by 1,000, and then you have a third order thousandfold universe. And so you might think that this is huge. But actually, even that is not so big, because, for example, the universe is depicted in the form of the Buddha Vairochana, and this third order thousandfold universe is said to be just his begging bowl. And then there is many more. Each and every pore on his body is actually another universe in the world. There are so many more. And so actually, this Buddha's form, what this Buddha's form represents is really the space-like Dharmakaya. And so what's the quality of understanding that, of knowing that? It is that we are not limiting our mind to numbers. For example, we think that now in this world, for example, there are these spiritual teachers, these lamas and so on, and there is like this certain number and so on. There's it's just them, but it's not like that. It's really infinite. There's an incalculable number of pure forms. There are infinite pure lands and infinite pure forms. And that's the meaning of this limitless pure lands, or this infinite field of purity. An infinite field of purity can be seen when one understands the space-like nature of mind, which is without center and boundary. Wherever space pervades, that's where Buddha pervades. They're not bound to a certain location, because their mind is Dharmakaya, and Dharmakaya is like space, and that is all pervasive. And then the Sambhogakaya is like a rainbow in the sky, appearing naturally as a natural reflection of bodhicitta. So the pure lands and the pure forms of Buddhas are all the manifestation of bodhicitta, however many there are. So that is this infinite field of purity, which is the third or the thousandfold universe, or the billionfold universe, the endless universe, represented, for instance, by Vairochana's form, and the Buddha of infinite illumination. And in each of his pores actually are more Buddhas and pure lands and universes. And so this is one within a single Buddha, and then there is infinite Buddhas. So we have to understand the infinity of Buddha forms and of pure lands. And so this is how we understand the view, how we resolve the natural state of the mind, which is in essence empty, like space. So the empty essence, like space, is the Dharmakaya. And realizing that means to realize the view, or as we mentioned before, the Buddha described the view or the nature of the mind as being profound and peaceful, profound as in vast, vast and peaceful, free from any elaboration, and luminous by nature. And actually there is nothing not included within just that. So one can say it is one Buddha. Within one Buddha everything is complete, and then one can also say there's this infinite field of purity of Buddhas appearing. So it is neither one nor is it many. It really transcends that. It transcends the conceptual limitations of one or many or multiple. So if you understand that, you understand the infinite field of purity, which is without center and boundary. And then you understand the extent of limitless sentient beings pervading space. So when you understand this infinite field of purity, you also understand the infinity of sentient beings. And then this is also, from this, But the benefit of understanding this is that from this vastness, the mind broadens, and from this a great faith in the higher beings, for instance, arise. So the mind expands by understanding this. So that is why it would be good to understand this. Then it says, so then third line, that belong to an owner and do not belong to an owner, and all that is worthy to be offered. So the first line in Tibetan here would be all that is worthy to be offered. So what is worthy to be offered? So there are, when we speak about in the world from a dualistic perspective, we have things that we find pleasing and things that we find unpleasant. And from that perspective of seeing things in this dualistic way, one would offer what is worthy to be offered is whatever one finds to be unpleasant or pleasing. One wouldn't offer something that is unpleasant. That is why people say, for example, you should only offer this, but you should definitely not offer that. That's dirty, and so on. So from that perspective, from the perspective of such a mind, where there is still a little bit of dualistic grasping, what is worthy to be offered is whatever is pleasing and nice from the perspective of that mind. And then the next line, which is the one before in English, so actually it's the one, that one is actually, let's see, the first one. So I behold in my mind and offer to the protector. So yeah, there's that line. So it's a bit different in the order. But anyway, so this one is speaking about the ultimate offering. So the ultimate offering is actually transcends the duality of pleasant and unpleasant. It is just that for as long as we believe, we grasp at the concrete reality of appearances and our concepts in our mind, as long as there is some grasping in our mind, there is a self. And so when there is a self, then we do make a separation, a distinction between pleasant and unpleasant. And so then on the ultimate level, however, we seal this dualistic perception with the view meaning that with emptiness, seeing that there is no difference between pleasant and unpleasant. Everything has the nature of Dharmakaya. That's the ultimate offering. And so the ultimate offering is so the offering that is not, what is it? It's like a little different. Anyways, so it's the offering that is not of no offering. So there is no difference between the offered and the offerer. And so generally there's different kinds of offerings. There's outer, inner, and secret offerings, and then there's also the suchness offerings, and it's all included within here. And so in any case, the ultimate offering, what this is pointing at, is that there is really ultimately no distinction between pleasant and unpleasant offering. Normally there is another quote elsewhere that says everything is offered, whether it is pleasant or unpleasant, or average, or anything made out of form, the 5 sense pleasures, 5 sense objects, and so on. And because one recognizes that they are all not separate, there is no distinction between pure and impure, or pleasant and unpleasant. And so that is the ultimate offering that is sealed by the view of emptiness. So one seals with emptiness one's perceptions, the ordinary perception of a concrete or true existence of appearances. And by sealing it with emptiness, then whatever one offers becomes an ultimate offering.
사회 주도 주배 주 남들 주 남들 남이 주대라 살이 카가카가 뭐가 카가카가 요래 사회 줄 추당 장다 소리 이 가리들이들 살이 집안으로 소소랑 게 땀이 니디제 똑바지들이 마세가 빠지들이 땀을 차세 제고래 주배 줄라 대래 대사양아리 남들 주도 남들 남이 줄라 들리다 남들 남이긴 출바된 출바라 때를 말이야 대화데 가다라는 걸 lokata 때버리면이 라라들이 장이다 가까이로 말이 대외들이 마사마데 주제치 뭐 약하카라서 뭐지 링하님마다 주제제들이 니적 이나게 공소들 늘하게 따와 그랬더니 고라나 바나들이 나 주제제를 들이서 말이 주제제다 다다 말람이게 니적 이나게니 레버치와 차대 요래 대다 사르를 니적 이나치 냠들 신을 대다 라요래 대다위는들이 대다위는들이 대다다 그반은 저반은 달리는 거 좋지 그것은 좀 거르천다 남다 봤대 냐바니 예매 동가리 다들이 좀 그것은 좀 거르천다 남다 배서네 혼대의 탐지 출남 탐지 그것은 아니라 이미 농양제 보사 혼대 이가 그것은 물론 마디가 자리요 말이 뒤통대 하고 뒤통대 온 거요 대조 대래
So now from a practical perspective now, in terms of what is worthy to be offered and so on. So now in the new tantric system, we have the 4 classes of tantra. So we have the action tantra, the performance tantra, the yoga tantra, and the unsurpassed yoga tantra. And so from this perspective, it seems that there's a separation. There are different rituals and different visualizations in each of those tantra classes. For example, in the lowest tantra class, the action tantra, or the Kriya Tantra, here there's great emphasis on hygiene and cleanliness. However, that does not mean that there are different deities. There's a difference in deities in the different classes of Tantra. It depends on the state of mind of the practitioner. So for as long as we have not completely eliminated our dualistic grasping, we need to pay greater attention to cleanliness and hygiene and so on. So that's why there is a greater emphasis on that in the first class of Tantra. And then in the second, the Upa Tantra, which is the performance Tantra, it is a little bit lighter. The rules are a little bit more relaxed. And then in the higher Tantras, the Yoga and the Unsurpassed or the Anuttara Yoga Tantras, then there is more of an emphasis on the view. For example, in the highest Yoga Tantra or the Unsurpassed, we speak about the Unsurpassed offering. And so actually for the offerings, the way we make offerings, there's also these 4 different levels. And one practices these levels depending on one's level of realizations, one's own state of mind. It has nothing to do with actually the quality of the deity. The deity is always the same. It's not that one is better or worse, or that they are different. So there is this, there are these kind of separate categories in the new tantric system, which is divided into the 4 classes of tantra. In the old tantric system, we have the 4 branches of approach and accomplishment, which brings together in a kind of simplified way those 4 classes of tantra. And so these 4 branches of approach and accomplishment are 4 levels of realizing the view, the nature of the mind. And they are related to the 4 classes of Tantra. So the 4 classes of Tantra and the 4 branches of approach and accomplishment have the same result in the end. But so if one knows how to practice it properly, then the 4 branches of approach and accomplishment, according to the old tantric system, are a little bit easier to practice. And so in any case, then the next verse explains to us the meaning of this great equanimity that we just mentioned. And so it begins with, see in the Tibetan line is the second in the English, so the Tibetan begins with the very pure mandalas of the 3 kayas. So it is said that all phenomena of samsara and nirvana have the nature of the 3 kayas. Nothing transcends the expanse, the great expanse of non-duality. So there is not a single phenomenon in samsara and nirvana that transcends the 3 kayas. Everything has the nature of the 3 kayas.
Custom jinko shanda namda paasam. Shanda namda de kare. Custom de kangi zonde. Custom de ta changka shina ta samje machaba ta chuba ta custom jinka. Kote jiga custom kongo de do yore. Ni custom de o kaka da custom de kakare. Ta de ha ko go sang yo ma de. De mo ni ko ja ko je jang de. Demari bakya de je va de ko ja ta je va ji de che song ko ji dok je de rang ke seng ne lo de 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 ko de yin yin lo sa me wa de ha ko de ko je jang ne da ko som de 이 것을 좀 그때 신도 남다 봐더니 이제 토니 독지가 깔렸다 왔어. 이제 딱 말이지. 오늘도 당선 그런 상황도 마다 봐지 가다를 안 하는 lokale 성요래지. 좋아를 또 간자라는 게 주게 무엇당 지말 신이 이거 봐지 라속 강치나 대 차를 좋아를 또 차요래. 대리 사제기 웅장 로버트 메제송 다시 거 로버트만 가리 뉴마도 로버트 연구 좀 이제 코로나 가요 말이지. 그래서 지금 시대 나봤다 봐. 이제 나봤다 말이지. 대리들이 대리들이 거선데 거선 차장나다 주거다 로버트한테 다 받자 송제리 주거들 다 마다 이가 요래 들이다다기 그거 다 받아니가 요래 대들이 대회를 듣고서 듣고서 동무들한테 쩌르지나 다다된 오스만 많이 맨냐와티나 냐와데 더 냐와데 그래 냐와데 말이지 냐와지 그 시단의 박차 토마토 맛을 코 쪼고 거래 내발을 샥주 제거래 야 돌을 미신을 쪼고 거래 뒤쪽에 토마토 마다가 받고 다 냐와래 제대로 좀 다스는 대식이 뭐 그런 짤을 좀 해요 말이에요. 무슨 식으로 시도 이제 다 와서 온 거요래. 이제 다 왔으니까 로버트 자 상실가는 근데 대다고 창에 시도 남다 봐. 시도 남았다 봐도 단지 빼자치면 망보요래. 대대대 이제 돈이 제주고나들이 다로 닥사 다땅다 다딜라서 바들이 롱만 보존에 딩키 뭐지 성거리 마가 카게 뭐라 말이 시시여 말이 배 이제 양통하면서 때 신도 넘버 딱 바들이 이제 망보요래 김포 삼주 저도 선거요래 때 문제 제다가 오니 거잖아 내 강을 제르더니 바로 살아하게 양성요래 사로슨 벌가 당마자 송래 사로슨 벌가 당마가리 잡지능이 사로 이제 사수들이 되니 파땅자는 로로로로 되니 담아서랑 정근하요 마고서 요마고 철래고 요래지 너는 되니 혼대가 사와 탐지디 가세 철 가세 파자들 랑 세고랑으로 철공을 되니 되는 좀 탐지랑 그 셈들 대마들은 사실 가가면 랑 셈마주가 직접 매는 호대 니가 잡았더니 이제 랑 셈을 내로 가리들이 내로 되는 정도 요래지 내로 되라서 다 가리를 제 말이 배송 요래지 그것을 이 뭐도 바로 추가해서 나도 탐색단도 셈 나왔다 될 추가해서 이제 디와니를 놓고서 항상 대래들이 디와 쳐보여 디와지 찾으라 다 롱주도 그냥 참 장미 받더니 산초생구랑 그것을 생각하네 살아기를 쫓았다 살아 찾으라 다다 내가 그렇게 말하기 벌써 로베를 들어가더니 절단 삼산처럼 차로를 빼대다 이런 코아디 들린 것을 로아를 두고 공수도 참아 쫓고 공수 요래 쫓아지는 때는 로아를 두고 참아지 문에 때린 말이 배는 맞다 봐야지 좋다 봐야지 코디 해당게 박차게들이 세속당 옆 대라서 우리들이 세바 좀 되는지 영화 좀 들고 삼이 당겨요 그 파사만 쇠해요래 좀 되게지고 세바 좀 들고 파서 차탐제를 나좀 기본은 영화 좀 들고 코라게들이 랑게 조목 고사로서 bên 대다가 때문에 빈줄 도로 찌와요 코찌와요매 조목 고사로 빼대다 영화 좀 시트상하다 뒤 당시 뒤에서 상상을 디스트릭트 보고랑 탈로요래 얘들이 가래 타야 돼 누구 타야 돼 누구 타야 돼 얘네들이라는 게랑 예배 타서 사움을 때리더니 도담그때 막 통통이 탈로요래 가다더니 도담그때 막 탑대리 삼지그때 모남 잡으려더니 탑로요래 배때서 샘제적인 배때 따르는 들이 되더니 그좀 되고 쳐던 남자 봐 좀이 벗어 저거 람강에 상제 답을 차게 되는 들 말이 배송하더니 강에지 네 주지망통 주니 통데 상제망통선이 상제망통 십지망통 상제 도서월에 이 상제가 제발용에 문에 따왔지 그때는 참바 상제래지 레지 야 선진놈 상제니 있어오나 처럼 어떡하래나 다 십지 망보도 소리 들어오셨다 이런 거래 십지 장매 발에 상제 가방 통야요 말상고요 동급은 내려오들 때 선진 좋았다 그래지 또 코데 내게요 말을 나도 뚫르되나 상제 십지 쪽 십지 상제 쪽으로 빼고 십지 나니 상제 쪽으로 십지 상제 십지에 마도가 상제 가까이요 말지 샘때 광들이 샘 대식이 뭐지 내활적 봐도 내활적 봐 탐해야 되는 상제의 명리 대다들 혼자 탐해야 돼 남갔다가 죽어 남갔다가 롱거 자초다가 죽어 잡았다가서 뺏대야래 죽어 걸다 떨지 봐도 좀 전적으로 될 들어봤어 이때 사제 가서 가서 마주에 대로 동다다 동은에 되더니 예토니 그리고 그 세다가 이제 다 와차 돼요. 내가 정봐 날마다가 가르쳐 먹는 시 라걸 거war지 상하지는 무슨 소송 그리다 상하게 제는 거 딱봐 권고지 제타들마다 왔다 왔다 들고 왜 도동안에 대해서 갖고 이거지 얘나한테 이제 다 와서 하고서는 라운지 쳐봐 이제는 라운지 쳐봐 다 소리 이제 딱 말이지 가르다고 하고서는 들이 대해서 생소로 차용 거래. 좀 쓰고 신던다고 하다. 신던다고 하더라. 대해서 딱바 차들이 중미 보섬 속고를 안 강하지. 자치사에서 참아 중미 보섬 속고 하더라. 사실 것은 거는 인민들이 이 말들은 통속고요. 대해서 것은 좀 신던다고 중미 보섬 속고를 안 강하지.
So it says then the very pure mandalas. So these very pure, completely the complete total purity. And so what does that mean? So it explains the nature of those three kayas. So in terms of the three kayas, can we speak of them in numbers? Like how many mandalas and pure lands and so on they are really numberless, inconceivable. And so in the same way, the offerings become innumerable offerings because they are infinite pure lands that are pervaded by the three kayas. So actually everything has the nature of the three kayas, samsara and nirvana both. And so sometimes we think of, at first we think of the three kayas as three separate things. But then when one realizes their true nature, then that is actually the fourth kaya, which unifies them, the svabhavika kaya, the essence kaya, where one understands that the oneness of those three kayas. Milarepa also said that at the fruition is the ornament of the four kayas. And so it is when one realizes the nature of the mind, that there is no distinction between the three kayas. And so now how we can understand the three kayas is in the Dzogchen teachings, for instance, it speaks about the original purity, gadak, which is the basis, that is the ground that is completely pure and is always completely pure. That's the original purity. Even though it seems in the surface that things are pure and impure. But this is just, that depends on one's own personal perception, the person themselves. So the person who is born in the 6 realms of samsara, depending on the fixations in their own minds and how they see things in a concrete way and how they grasp at their concepts and which of the afflictive emotions is predominant, determines the perception of their own perception of the 6 realms of samsara. So, but the Buddha had said, as we mentioned before, beings are only obscured by adventitious stains. And we have said these adventitious stains are those afflictive emotions. But then the ground itself, it is never stained at all. It is originally and always pure. So this is very pure mandala here refers to this ground of original purity. And so the 3 kayas are the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, and the Dharmakaya and Sambhogakaya are the pure aspects, and they are a union. And then for the Nirmanakaya, there is a pure and an impure aspect. So this term nirmana, or dul in Tibetan, so dulku, the dul in dulku, it implies an emanation, something that is emanated, and therefore whatever is emanated is not the real thing. So it is an emanation form. So, for example, we can also say that is what hell is, for instance. So we think that hell is this real place, but it's not in the sense of like concreteness. There's not such a real place. But hell is basically the manifestation of one's imprints of anger, of hatred. And these imprints need to be washed. So they need to be, like you're washing clothes. You have to wash these imprints, these stains of these karmic imprints of anger. Or you can also see it like maybe having to do a surgery when you're sick. You have to purge it get it out, until it becomes purified. And until the anger becomes purified, there will be a manifestation of hell. But then once it becomes purified, Buddha nature will reveal itself as completely unstained. It has never actually become stained. It is always pure fundamentally. And that is what the Buddha had said when he said, beings are only obscured by adventitious stains. And regarding this complete purity, original purity, there are also many very vast explanations just on that term. The Khenpos also can speak more on that. For example, they can speak on what does it mean to be completely pure, and how does the way to become completely pure, to purify, and what is it that needs to be purified completely, and so on. There's also a lot of teachings on that in the scriptures, and also the scholars are teaching on that elaborately. So I myself am not able to say these things in this elaborate or eloquent way. I also wouldn't know how to express it, and on top of that, I don't really see the letters so well, the scriptures. And so in any case, but there is a lot of explanation just on this term, this very pure or original purity, that the scholars can explain more elaborately. And so now Saraha, Master Saraha, has said that it is just like with this emanation, now coming back to this Nirmanakaya. For example, if you are in an ocean on a ship and you send off the crow to fly, eventually it has no other place than the ship to come back to. So it always comes back to one single ground, one single place. And therefore, everything in samsara and nirvana has the same nature. No matter how vast things may proliferate, however many things there may be, they all are not separate from one's own mind. And that's why it is said, the way things appear, whatever appears is your own mind. And also in the Ganges Mahamudra, it says, there is no phenomenon not included within one's own mind. One's own mind is the very root or basis of all of samsara and nirvana. Nothing transcends it. Nothing transcends the natural state. And so regarding the natural state of mind, Milarepa explained it this way. He said, the non-conceptuality is the Dharmakaya. And that is the space-like mind that is devoid of all concepts, all thoughts. That's the Dharmakaya, that is the basis or the ground. And then he said that the Sambhogakaya is great bliss. So this thought-free space of Dharmakaya is actually very blissful, and so the blissful quality of it is the Sambhogakaya, and from that quality arise the infinite Pure Lands and the Buddha forms, the Sambhogakaya forms. And then the Nirmanakaya is the clarity aspect, Milarepa said. And so that is, some have realized that the true nature and some have not. So some have clarity and some have not. It is just like temporarily, some are like an ice block and some are like water. Temporarily, samsara, the 6 realms of samsara emanate, which is the meaning of nirmana and nirmanakaya, this emanation. Emanation means, this rule means that it's not actually real. The 6 realms are not actually real, they're just an emanation. For example, when you see a scorpion, you might look at the scorpion and say that you are a scorpion. But actually, what you're looking at is just a manifestation, a physical representation of a karmic imprint of anger and of hatred. And so then the scorpion in its existence experiences the result of that, the result which is twofold. There is a result, an experience corresponding to the cause, and then there is an activity corresponding to the cause. So the experience corresponding to the cause is that for example, people have an aversion against them, and then they kill a scorpion. and an activity corresponding to the causes that the scorpions then again engage in activities which are similar to the cause, which is the cause is hatred or anger. So they engage in activities that kind of are conducive with hatred. And for example, what scorpions do is that apparently the females eat the heads of the males. And normally, when a couple normally would love each other, but they not love each other, they eat each other's heads. So that is really a manifestation of hatred. So if you really think about the experience and the activity of these various beings, you understand. However, they also possess Buddha nature, which in the end will become liberated. It's just that some become liberated quicker, and for some it takes longer. So when one becomes liberated quicker, then such an individual cultivates these seeds of virtue, and as a result sees the ultimate reality and thereby becomes liberated. Somebody who sees the ultimate truth and makes an aspiration prayer for others, actually this aspiration prayer is vast and is accomplished. And that is also because they have realized that the nature of our mind, the basis of the one who prays and the one they're praying for, is actually one and the same. And then also Milarepa again had said, I do not see phenomena, I just see the nature of phenomena. And he said, I do not see sentient beings, I only see Buddhas. And that really conforms with the teachings of the Buddha, if you really understand the view. If you really understand the view, you will see all as Buddha. There are no real sentient beings. So the Buddha himself had said all sentient beings are actually Buddhas. So now when we think about that statement, from an ordinary perspective, we might think that, how can this be true? There is so many sentient beings everywhere, but we can't see a Buddha anywhere. No Buddha is to be seen. So that's how we think, but actually when you really look at the nature, the true nature of those beings, those sentient beings, they are illusory. They are like emanations. They will not stay that way. They will always change. And that's the nature of emanation. And what is an emanation is subject to change. So they won't stay in that state all the time. And actually, Buddhas arise from sentient beings, and sentient beings arise from Buddhas. Also there are no Buddhas aside from sentient beings. There cannot be a Buddha without a sentient being. So there is really no separation. It is just for sentient beings who have not realized that there seems to be a separation, but actually there is no separation. There's only Buddha nature. So one other name of a Buddha is the Tathagata, which is the one, the thus gone one, the one gone to suchness. And so that is actually one has gone to Buddha nature. So in any case, all phenomena of samsara and nirvana have the nature of the three kayas. And again, the Dharma kaya is like space, the Sambhoga kaya is like a rainbow, and the Nirmana kaya is like rain falling down. And the Nirmana kaya also means emanation, or something that is created, so like an illusion, and therefore it will change. Everything is changeable. And on the basis, however, everything has the nature of the three kayas, and therefore is totally pure. Drikung Master Dhammaraja had said that when you realize that everything that appears and exists is the divine form of the deity, then you have perfected the generation stage of the secret mantra. When we learn to practice the generation stage, the visualizations in the secret mantra practices, then we might think that we always have to conceptualize when we generate the deity. And so it might seem very a difficult task, almost like crushing rocks, because we have to build up this generation of the visualizing the deity. It is a little difficult to do. But then when one actually understands the basis of all that, then so there is the purity of the basis and the purity of the path. And when one understands and the purity that the basis is actually pure, then it will become much easier for one to also practice the purity on the path while one is practicing. And then as a result of that, the mind will be more at ease, relaxed. So the pure aspect of the Nirmanakaya is the three kayas is the various appearances of the Pure Land. So completely very pure here means that it is completely flawless. It is utter perfection. The natural state is utter perfection, completely flawless. And that is the nature of the three kayas. And when one sees this utter perfection of existence, appearance and existence, then appearance and existence becomes like an ornament of offerings that is being offered. So in any case, this is how one sees it. And so that is when one sees the pure mandalas, the purity of the three kayas.
상마 제자버들 마에서 기와라 거르지는 강이 곰자야지 오 그래서 다다한테 뜻이 봐요 상상 갔다 앉으면 내리 이제 다리도 상마 제버들 나래 제 지시튼 같이 좀 하더니 말도 지시지 상마 제자버들 마에서 기와라 거르지 마시 받을 마에서 기와라 거르지는데 체도 기와라 거르지에서 많이 봐 앞에는 말안 따라 라코성 정들이 오 라코가 피운데 때는 라코는 아직 돈이 되고 잡을등등 콜로시 받아 추적 콜로 내리고 나 콜로용 대리 선지 쏘는 쇼방들이 콜로지 제메가 욕도 받아 이랬더니 르지가 마시 받다 라코 욕도 살에 욕도 살에 그 대레는 좀 마상다다 저기 왔고 송하게 왔고 다 용리라 니네라 데라서 시작해서 특히 다 데라서 체들이 용가가 돌아서 봐더니 너마 체들도 좀 못하고 니네들이 받겠다 니네들 용리라서 봐 데리고 요래 들 가시는 마제니 요래 마제니데 다들 또든 마제에서 하던 평용치 못 쏜 거요 공장에는 이 담배기와 탐지 좀 많이 좀 거지 지금 나쁘던 많이 나들 레스다 그거래 영화에서 기아라고 또 뒤좀 싹을 기아도 뒤좀 거를 영화 예수 거네 별기아 비슷해서 탐지 좋소
That in the next verse, and then it says, to you, protector, I offer my body, speech, and mind, all wealth equal to space without exception, and all the virtues accumulated in the three times. Out of compassion, please accept these for the benefit of all sentient beings. So the second line in the Tibetan is, let's see, the last one in the English. So, what is it? Wait a minute. Sorry, the second one in the English. All wealth equal to space without exception. So, you're bringing to mind all the virtue that we have accumulated in all lifetimes, and everything that we own and not own, and so on. And then next it says, and this is significant, which is the third line in Tibetan and the first one in English. So it says, I offer my body, speech, and mind, and then all the virtues accumulated with body, speech, and mind in the three times, so the first and the third line. And so regarding that, so there is the virtues of the three times. You bring to mind all the virtue we have accumulated in the past with body, speech, and mind, that we will accumulate in the future, and that we are accumulating now. For example, in our prayer book in the beginning, there is the prayer, the Serkhangma, which after that we say, for this purpose, I will apply body, speech, and mind to virtue. And the first one is, until I attain enlightenment, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. And this means I will practice meditation until I attain enlightenment. I will habituate the view, and that means I will practice mindfulness and conscientiousness. I will practice the view of vipassana. I will practice meditation from now onwards and until I attain enlightenment. So basically, in brief, it means until I attain enlightenment, I will sustain mindfulness. So that is the first line. And then the second line says, until I die, I will practice virtue with my body, speech, and mind. And so that refers to any virtuous activity that is like not prescribed through a vow, or something virtuous that you do. For example, myself, I spin a small prayer wheel, and actually I'm doing that because I understand the great benefits of the prayer wheel and know that it accomplishes the dual benefit of others and myself. And the wheel has a lot of great meaning. For example, there's many wheels in the world, and the Buddha, for example, he turned the wheel of Dharma, and I'm spinning the prayer wheel. There's many benefits to that. And when I reach this prayer, from now until I die, I will practice virtue with body, speech, and mind, then I think that I will be able to spin a prayer wheel continuously from now on until I die. So that is my virtue until I die. And then the third one is, from today until this time tomorrow, I will apply body, speech, and mind to virtue. And that refers to many of the verbal activities, especially the virtuous activity of silence. And it refers to the vows that we take. So these are the kind of prescribed vows. Now we actually take vows, like mainly it refers to the Nyingne and the Nyungne vows, where we take various vows along with the vow of silence, for example. And actually there's a lot of benefits to taking a vow of silence, especially for a meditator, because actually the majority of our negativity stems from our speech. And it is because of our speech, actually, that we accumulate most of our negative karma. And so, therefore, there's a lot of great virtue in this vow of silence. And so, these are the roots of virtue of the 3 times that I practice with body, speech, and mind. It relates to this Serkhangma prayer in the beginning. And so, we bring it all to mind here and make it an offering.
이게 다시 야연 거는 납시 대담지 납시 초제 용을 생군 차고라 데르티니 파탄 못이게 시즈드바 데니 접점답지송 접점답지 시즈드바 랑 따방하는 내 마첩 유모버드바 데라 차단도 봐지 데르티 데라티리 박차가 좀 레지도 밖에 다 레사 차다 무슨 건 레사 박차가 좀 봐도 좀 이제 좀 봐도 이 드바 섬데게 드바 섬데 중데게 들이 실을 박아 맞는 들이 중섬데 박차요 박차지마데 박차별 미신을 다 하고 똑같은 정도 들이 체체서 들이 되나 제탑제 소화 도가 오는 좋고요래 대탑적 의지는 따뜻한 곰자야 제 동사 들려서 우요래 지만할 배송래 남도 죽을 탐발라 동거 곰바마제랑송 냠농당 되와제 제제도 주든 남도 가래 샤나 사마 비비시하고 하고고스 내 죽을 통고 죽어가래 심층이 시바 모습이 시바 쳐버려 대도 초와 적고 공들 갈래 차동 갈래 신성 대사고 따고래 해서 데르티 데스 초와도 초와스티 지시 봐요 받을 생각들 봐요 용되고 이제 연습을 박차 야마자대 하고 요래 대회는 되더니 막또 죽을 틈마틈도 박차 야마자 되리 데르티니 조바를 매를 해서 초조랑 살다고 알아로 형제 조바만 제라면서 초와 적대 거를 박차 야마자대 하고 그래 디자반이 인고를 따져라 찌를 당나 찌를 쳐가지고 뒤에 당 거도 내려배나 대답을 얘기했더니 공자지 뜻이 봐요 그러나 로그에 체되더니 곰바 단대와 곰바 쪼바단 대와서 니 곰바 냠냠단 대와서 그러더니 남도디 초와 두고 거리 영만 하여튼 가르쳐만들이 남이 말을 songa 대기는 다 고요리 동
Then and the next verse says, by seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and recollecting the Vajra goddess of form, sound, odor, taste, intangible objects, the three obscurations are purified. I offer the goddess of appealing objects to you. Please accept them, immaculate, victorious Lord. So the sense objects, the five sense objects that we of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching, and then also there are the 8 kinds of consciousness that as we mentioned before. There's first the normal sense powers, and then there is some additional kinds of consciousness. So there's the 5, and then there's the mental consciousness and so forth. So there's 8 kinds of consciousness, and then there's the obscurations. So there's 3 obscurations, and sometimes we speak about 4 obscurations. First, there is the obscuration, the subtle obscuration to knowing the mind, the cognitive obscuration. And then because we don't see the nature of the mind, because of this obscuration, then there arise the other 3 obscurations. And so these obscurations need to become purified by resting within the view. But if we are not able to rest within the view or recognize the natural state of the mind, so if you have that first obscuration, then that leads to the obscuration of the afflictive emotions, the second one, meaning that from that lack of seeing arise the various thoughts of attachment and aversion. And then due to that arise the obscurations of the karmic imprints. So then these thoughts place a karmic imprint in the mind, and these lead us to accumulate karma, which is the obscuration of karma. Then we create karma driven by the thoughts of attachment and aversion and so on. So these are the 4 obscurations that must be purified. So it is because due to the fault of not seeing one's true nature, the cognitive obscuration, that the fault of the other 3 obscuration arises. So because we don't see the nature of the mind, we place imprints into our mind. So it is just a gradual kind of process of becoming more and more impure. Just like your eyeglasses, it starts with being a little bit foggy, a little bit dirty, and then the obscurations just becomes thicker. And what really forms these obscurations are those feelings of the 6 sense powers. And for a meditator, it is in the beginning essential to recognize these feelings generated by the 6 kind of sense consciousnesses. That's really where the practice begins. And then Milarepa said that thoughts have to dissolve into the Dharmakaya. And he also said that meditation has to be imbued with an actual experience. So what that means is how thoughts dissolve into the Dharmakaya is that you have to recognize with mindfulness on an ongoing basis whatever thought arises in the mind. And when you recognize it, this thought dissolves. And that is the dissolving into the Dharmakaya. So it is clear awareness that must recognize all the feelings generated by the 6 senses. And we need to be very careful and use introspection when it comes to the clinging and attachment that arises toward those 6 sense objects, these feelings that arise within the mind. And you do that with mindfulness and conscientiousness. It is said that mindfulness is the basis of all good qualities. With mindfulness, you know whether or not you are following your habitual imprints, your karmic imprints, whether you're forming them, reinforcing these karmic imprints. So whether or not thoughts dissolve into the Dharmakaya depends on whether or not you allow these karmic imprints to further deepen in the mind. So it is said that, Milarepa also said that the 6 sense consciousnesses, the 6 kinds of feelings, must settle into the natural place, meaning they must, through mindfulness, through sustaining mindfulness, these feelings must dissolve on their own into a state of great equanimity, where there is no difference between an object of attachment or aversion. Because normally we are attached to one side and we have an aversion against the other. And when you are attached to one thing, then you suffer greatly if that one thing does not exist, is absent. So therefore, for a meditator, mindfulness is most important. And then also, it is to bring this experience of meditation into one's day-to-day activity. And that is what is also meant with meditation must be imbued with an experience. You experience it in your day-to-day activities when all the various thoughts and feelings of the 6 senses arise within you. So what's most important is, at this time when these feelings arise, is to be undistracted. And so this is how it is explained from Milarepa's experience.
이 라만 조만 벌거래지. 라마 토마니 제가 원했더니 통화 동요 라만 초졌다시. 그래서 제가 좀 sem이 도리도 라마 마사랑 셈 내가 집이 시합 내리지. 집이 시합 내라더니 다 적다 저자 대가들이 다다더니 유목상 가는 데니 이 무보던 심하지 봐 때라더니 유목봐 무보던 심심이 봐요 때라더니 좀 거래 그때 그래도 적다 저러잖아 너무 취하면 찌는 말이지 오 단디도 용아들 자꾸 좀 그래 적기 빠져로 뭐지 쏘는 거래 맥시 적라 차네 셀렙 메란체 나와 달라 차나 다 뭐베수 나 달라 차나 몸 정말 메도로 참 제로라 차나 냐모 짝진생 르르 달라 차나 랑보진 남의 인성 대체가 적다 저러자 추자게 추이들 나오냐면들이 대단히 레전드들이 그거를 송 거래 대탐지 우뜨들 지나더니 주제를 뭐 다기 했던 바지에 대다들 레전드 소화도 그거 될 때는 주제를 없어요 다 주제를 뭐 비시합들이 제가 족 나도 족을 못보던 심하시는지 족도 답지 문제지나 매주 문제에서 못보던 심하 돈이 또 다섯 번도 풍부가 제들이 타라가 풍부도 오면 문이 도자요 오면 지금 되지 오면 저 그래서 동시에 종통나들이 종나동 자작동 타마들이 돈이 되도록 되라 마차바 마신바서 오늘 때는 누용아를 해게 다 누용 까까요 소살리 누용아 까먹어서 강에 그것도 보면 도용 동화 설마 방식 도차시 봤어버려서 우리 나가서 상하가 되네. 제일 다들 같으니 또 초화가 가려서 전 노들이 시잖아. 레제 제일 초화됐지. 그 박차장. 다티 박차디 달라만 버지. 라만 다외 제텝서 다외 하고선선에 초화디 김바데 명하고 요래. 뒤들이 고반이야 명단 들어가서 말할 배송에 곰 잡고 그랬다 누군가 가래 롱주나 내가 우리 탐만 잡아서 막 가르치는 때 박차자성 상에 초아 쪽에 대해서 뭐더나 서로 박차 잡아서 초승 초마 타야지 박차대 미로 요래 대회를 드리는 데라들이 따따따 타마 돈이가 돈 제태 돈 박차 맞아 돼서 뭐 레리게 되는 데는 돈다 때리지 이미 되었지 모르겠어. 이미지 소화돼 라는 생각도 내다디 하고도 참 빼나 시당시 보절랑나 시당시 건지 나와요. 시당랑나 새 여지 시당나 사실 상황하다 시당랑을 먹으러 때나 개비치라고 때는 시당 가면 하가 샘도 싸고 랑이 싸고 차들 오 시당 메롱도 이시지 이시가지 양성을 따뜻하게 되는 검자시나 고만냐 명단 들어가서 이게도 조종을 롱주버까지 이때 이시가던 제송아 다들이 이시가는 저가 미는 이시가 마음에는 들리니 뭔가 동아 열들이 딱 코하게 신바다 차고 박차 좋은 거래 근데 거리 책찍도 다 설르시잖아 네 오리 세속이 되다 그래 예를들이 만용마가 쏘나 나라를 성성 나라를 성전에 속마동 작작동 세월이 똥툭도 예서 도제서는 저들는데 되는 줄도 요래 나도 거도 이제 생토는데 저번에 저밤에 내 말이야 매 좋았다 그래 내 말이야 내 말만 네 맘에 내가 토야 요래 그까지 요래 대원 그你怎么真把的？这里我们到那里现在啊，说的了，这嘛啦说的了，这大这个大他妈的呢，你们把这里就是做啥啊？不啥的，那么的啊，是也没的，看看我嘛的，这可能大这里，你们那都蹦中这把我原来那么那么啦的，谁那么的，他那么人头那样，那么的大些的，那么的sem的，那个sem就把差的哦，呀。너무 지금 라라지마도 대다고 하고는 그러지 다톡도 나올 때 다트당 뭐살라마단 뭐그 다 something 나만이 또 생모 어찌보라 라우레스 이렇게 다 나와 탐지라는 것은 동담을 대바 하고는 대다고 고아도 차용 거래 네 참아지다는데요 공대해야지
So then the next verse, so it goes, the Vacha goddess of body, nature, form, is the supreme goddess of fully purified ignorance, and so on. So here it goes through each of the sensations and the afflictions. So here, the supreme goddess of fully purified ignorance, for instance. The essence of all of that is that all of this is offered to the guru, the lama, and as it says in the very beginning of the Serkhangma prayer, it is offered to those worthy of being offered one's mind, the mind itself that is the essence of all the Buddhas of the three times. And so when you understand that, and I ask you who is your lama, you know that it is my own mind, my own mindfulness. Your own mindfulness is your own lama. And that is what these offerings are also being made to, of a form, sound, smell, touch, and so on. And so each of them is related to one of the 5 afflictive emotions, and I'm grasping at them. So it is related to our fixation to the true existence of whatever appears, whatever afflictive emotion appears. So each of these verses explains their true nature. So here this one is the nature of ignorance, for instance. And then, so it says, I merge her with the eyes of the Lama, the Lord of Dharma. Please accept this in the great bliss of non-duality. So Dzogchen Pato Rinpoche has said, to summarize that regarding the faults of attachment to any of the sense sources, he said that when one is attached to the sights perceived with the eye, it is like one is like a moth being attracted to a flame, and if one's ears are attracted to sound, it is like a deer, like a wild animal attracted to the sound of a flute. And then if one's nose is attracted to something, it is like a bumblebee attracted to a flower. And if one's tongue is attached to the taste, it is just like a fish being attracted to the hook that catches the fish. And then if one is attached to the tactile, the tangible senses, then it is like one is like an elephant that is attracted to rubbing themselves in the mud. So this is the nature of our attachments. And so here in these verses, they are explained one by one. And related to a certain feeling that they each generate. And so again, it is offered to which guru, it is your own mindfulness. And regarding sights or appearances are empty of self-nature. So regarding the appearances, for example, when we see a thing, we naturally feel that this is a real thing. We fixate on the true existence of what we see. So we see a form and you think that this is real, that's actually there. There's a real grasping at the reality. But then if you really think about it carefully, what you see, this form, the 5 aggregates, by nature are nothing else but dust, or like ashes. It doesn't stay. It just is a temporary perception of one's own grasping mind. But it is not always going to be that way. It is empty of self-nature. So whatever you see, all appearances are empty, and all sounds you hear are empty. So everything, to realize that is to seal everything with emptiness. When everything is sealed with emptiness, then there is no attachment, there is no clinging to any of the 5 sense objects. And so what is important here is the recognition. Now, according, for example, to the pratimoksha, path of individual liberation, the enjoyment of the 5 sense pleasures is actually prohibited. But so Rinpoche would like me to stop right here because it's time to take a break, and then I will continue the translation when we come back in 20 minutes.
Thank you.